Welcome to the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast on Mintwave Radio and all podcast platforms. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer with an online program and would like to find out how to grow your business whilst having fun podcasting, go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. Let's dive into today's episode.
So welcome to the show. And today I have two guests with me, Dr. Damian Nesser and his co-host Sam from the Life is a Classroom podcast. So before we get started, we are going to talk about their book. But Damian, if you'd like to share with the audience a little bit about what was the inspiration behind you helping students, young adults actually transition into finding their absolute purpose and thriving?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. Recently, we've helped a 25-year-old get from being an assistant to a director job in a big corporation that's not worldwide, but it's across the United States. And that was very successful. We helped him get from A to B, and also a 48-year-old reinvent himself into another profession. So I actually utilize a lot of my skill sets in the coaching realm because I've been in education for 30 years. And over the past 3 years, or 3 years ago, I actually turned tragedy into triumph. I actually gave up my house and my job as a counselor and dean. They couldn't figure out what to do with me, so they gave me both jobs. So I resigned from that position and I moved back home to Pittsford, New York to help my late great mother, Celia, who was 86 years old at the time, and we discovered that she had vascular dementia. And I said to myself, what the hell is vascular dementia? I have no idea what that is. So my brothers and I were talking. I have four older brothers. Long story short, I said, I'm going to move back home to help Mom. And my four older brothers said, you're going to do what? I said, I'm going to move back home and help Mom. Have you ever been a home health care aide? They're all laughing at me. They thought I was kidding. I said, no, I don't even know what that means. But as I was driving down to going back up to Pittsford, New York from Florida, I literally looked up the definition of what a home health care aide was and the responsibilities. And I said, wow, this is really going to be a daunting task. So pretty much that's what I did. It was a pretty dark time. When I first started helping my mom, I was clueless. I was scared. I was clueless. It felt like I was just dumped into a situation, even though I knew I had to do it. And this is to young people and people that are actually trying to reinvent themselves into another profession. Actually, close to 49% of people in the United States of America are dissatisfied with their place of work. So it's becoming a very big industry, coaching, if you know your audience, right? So long story short, being a home health care aide, I said the first thing I need to do is learn from people that know. So first thing I did was I pretty much sat down with the four beautiful young aides that we hired that had 20 plus years experience, right? Learning from the professionals, just like your podcasting business that you have. You're a consummate professional and you do an awesome job. So I learned from each one of those beautiful ladies. I took notes. We redesigned the house according to my mom's needs. We literally got a hospital bed in the middle of the living room. We got her equipment. Everything was right around what she needed because that's what dementia patients need. For those of you who are probably listening, you probably know somebody that's got dementia. There's over 75 million families worldwide that are suffering through someone, a loved one that have dementia, right? So skipping forward, I reinvented myself from a 28-year educator into a home health care aide, and a damn good one. I did cooking, cleaning, groceries, doctor appointments. I was Mr. Mom to my mother, right? So my brother Joe, who is our executor, he was the one that took care of the finances. So we made a great team. But just like in a profession, I overdid it. I was doing well with great with Mom. I was helping her in so many different ways. So that experience, that trauma, that holy crap, what am I going to do? What the hell is a home health care aide? I found out. I figured it out. I worked through it. I worked through problems. That's what we teach. I have so many strategies about anxiety, depression, sleep deprivation in our book, in our downloadable journal that we have to help people coach them through. we actually are getting into the realm of coaching families who are experiencing trauma. Some could be dementia, some could be Alzheimer's. It's all under the same umbrella. But Sam, tell our audience what you benefited from my coaching and mentoring. How have I helped you? How have some of the strategies that we actually both do on coaching calls with our clients, how have they helped you in your life?
I would say that when it comes to coaching, principal strategy always seems to be not to give them the exact answer. You don't want them to find the answer. You want them to, or you don't want to give them the answer. You want them to find it. You want them to come to the conclusion on their own. You can provide a little bit of guidance, but the main thing is building accountability and motivation in the client. And that has been what helped me the most. Holding me accountable for actually following up with any of the goals that I set for myself. And with that accountability, I get a little bit more disciplined, and then I start to become more motivated once I see the results. And that motivation naturally builds into a desire to eventually find what it is that is my purpose or my end goal. In the case of most of our clients, it is a good fit job or a best fit job career path for them, something where they are happy in the career they choose, and it gives them the ability to pursue the things that they're passionate about.
So Sam, tell our audience too, when I found you 4 years ago, your brother Ben, talked to me for, I don't know how many days, probably a week. You gotta help my brother. You gotta mentor my brother. Why? Because he's brilliant. How is he brilliant? He built my computer. He built your computer. I can't even tie my shoe. He built your computer. That's unbelievable. And he's a teacher's aide. What's he a teacher? Okay, I'm going to help this kid. So Sam, tell the audience from point A how desolate you were, how depressed you were as a teacher aide, to how you are now and what you went through in school and the police academy.
So to put simply, the way Dr. N and I met was because at the time of me being a teacher's aide at the school, I was rather depressed. I wasn't in a very good state of mind. I was very motivation motivation was almost non-existent. I was extremely complacent with just where I was because I was in this state of mind where, well, at least it's not getting worse. But the main thing is I didn't have any motivation to try and make it better. I was just content. I wasn't happy. I was content in that very depressed and that state. And I had, at the time, I built a computer for my brother recently because he needed a more powerful computer because he was interested in some video related and audio related things. He wanted to play some games with some old friends of his that he had in college because they lived far away. So I built him a computer, and then Dr. N was looking for a technician for a podcast he wanted to start up. So I decided, or he came to me, and I started being the technician. And through that, while we interacted, that's when Dr. N started to coach me and to mentor me to where currently now I'm in a much better, healthier state of mind. I have a lot more motivation. I have significantly more goals, including my most recent goal, which is to join the police academy. So I've put in all my applications. I've gone through the many steps that are involved with that, and hopefully in a couple months I'll be on the road to becoming the latest deputy in the county.
And you completed your AA degree so far?
I did,
right?
yes. I went to college as well. While I was working at that middle school, I was once again trying to figure out what it is that I felt was my purpose in life. And part of that included, maybe it is about time that I just go back to college. I was very intimidated about going back to college because I hadn't been in school for several years at that point, and I didn't know what it would entail. And I was apprehensive to actually start school again. And most of that apprehension just came from, I think, the worry that changing what I was doing in life would just end up with more negative results. But a lot of what Dr. Nesser has taught me is that, one, it's never too late to try something, and you shouldn't be apprehensive about something because you can either take it slowly. You don't always have to dive in 100%. And even if you do dive in 100%, people are very resilient and they're very capable of, even if there is a setback, of bouncing back or bouncing forward, which is a term that I prefer.
We learned that from Dr. Stashko, who's a pretty big influencer. She said there's no such thing as bouncing back, because you're going right back into the mire, into the muck. When Karen uses the word messy, you don't want to be messy. You want to make sure you're going forward. Sam, so motivational. You motivate me in so many different ways. And even though you struggled so much at point A, I still think you're so much more mature than I was at 26 years old. Not that I was going around doing crazy stuff. Just I'm talking about like in a mental capacity of just viewing life and having confidence. And you're going to do fantastic. And you're going to make a fantastic policeman. As a matter of fact, when Sam made cards, I don't know if they'll be able to see this through my thing, but the latest one is this one, room where you are. I met after I picked them up at Sam's apartment the other day, because we did more, because Dr. N's promoting, for the listeners that don't know, probably don't know, we're promoting our book. And I'm using these QR code cards, which I'm holding up in the camera. And I met a police officer. When I picked these cards up, I saw a police officer washing his car. And I said, hey, do you happen to know so-and-so in the police department, or Pastor Jerry, I think it was? I said, no. I go, oh. He goes, what do you got there? I go, this is a QR code card. My friend, my co-host of the podcast and co-author, Sam Geiger, is going to be a police officer soon. And he made these because we're promoting our book. So I gave him one. He said, I'm going to give this out to different facilities in Anna Marie Island, because we're in Florida, and also to officers in the police department. You come and speak at the police department. So why did I bring that up? Young people or older people, or people that are starting a new profession, or people that don't think they can go from A to B or B to C. You have to step out and put your toe in the water, or nothing's going to happen. The ripple doesn't happen in the pond unless you throw the pebble in the pond. And one thing leads to another thing, and that could lead to several coaching jobs once I start getting into the talking to the police academy and to different residences and facilities, right? So, yeah.
So there's lots of, what do you call yourself? A life coach? I know you're a life design coach. There's lots of them out there. So what is it that sets you apart from the marketplace, other than the 30 years of experience that you have in the teaching profession?
My co-coach, Sam Geiger, who we've talked about already and just got through talking, he's proof in the pudding. He's living proof of what I can do. I could do it second nature. It's not only just the systems that we use, and yes, we're going to give you homework. We'll give you homework, and that homework will be designed right where you're at. So if you're only in A circle, we're only going to give you A circle homework just for where you're at in that development. So I'm talking generically to say this, not only the specific strategies, but interacting with Sam as my coach, there's an advantage, because the motivational advantage that people will hear and see that, wow, you really changed Sam's life. Because Sam chimes in as a 26-year-old. I chime in as a 56-year-old. And all of us have this coaching, I say this, it's a coaching karma. It's a connecting, like Karen and I, when we first met through social media. I think it was LinkedIn. We connected right away. I knew I was supposed to work with Karen. Karen helps with our podcast, and she does an amazing job. And so knowing that, giving Sam, like for instance, I'll use the 25 as an example, the 25-year-old. He was struggling. He was much like Sam, right, Sam? He was depressed.
Yeah.
He was full of anxiety. You can't show anybody, this is my point. This is where my 30 years come in that overlook most coaches, or would supersede most coaches. You can't help anyone change the profession until you deal with inner first, because it's not outward to inner, it's inward to outward. You have to deal with their anxiety. You have to get to know their background. You have to get to know what makes them tick. That's what we do. We give you a set of questions.
It's getting to the root of why are they apprehensive, or why do they lack that desire. You're not going to go anywhere
until that happens. And I'm a master at that. I'm a master mentor. And that's
because you can give them every single answer. You can say, well, based on what you like, here's career, A through W or A through T, that just all these careers are really good for you. We've got 14 to choose from. But if they don't have that motivation, if they're too apprehensive, then they're not even going to attempt to try it. They might, take a glance at it, but the first, they might think this is a lot of work and I don't know if I can do it. And maybe they lack the confidence to be able to do it. You have to get to the root of what those things are.
Sam, remember when the 25-year-old client said, he didn't have confidence, and he was an assistant in a big organization, but we instilled that confidence in him. So by the time we were done with, I think it was like 9 weeks, once a week, 9 weeks or 10, no, it was 10 weeks. He had confidence, he had strategies, he had messed up relationships, interrelationships within the system, within his workplace. He fixed the problem because of our coaching with interrelationships. And remember, Sam, because he fixed those interrelationship problems, it allowed him to get promoted to the manager job of where he was working. Yeah. And he got bigger pay.
It was one of those things where it's demonstrating that once you become aware of what you're capable of, now demonstrate that to the people who need to see it, and then they will take notice. And just by doing that, maybe you're not going to see immediate results, but by actually taking those actions, you will progress. And eventually, when somebody does say, wow, you're good at what you do, why don't you try this opportunity? Don't hesitate, say yes. Give it a try. Because the worst that you can do is say, maybe I'm not cut out for this position, but I was really good at the position I was in, and maybe that is the place for me. Most people are not going to say, oh, you moved up, I'm sorry, you're fired because you can't handle this enormous amount of responsibility we just laid on you. Usually it's about finding where you're best. And people don't want to give up somebody who does good work, especially once they've seen the work that you're capable of. But
interesting. I was just thinking about this as Sam was talking. I'm thinking of, because we're promoting the book now, and I'm thinking of all the different talks and the places that I'm going to be. And my audiences are going to mainly be elderly seniors that already experienced life. They have grandchildren. They have visitors. Some are going to be happy. Some are going to be in the middle place, and some are going to be depressed. That's why I know for a fact this is going to be fun. That's what we try to instill in clients is work should be fun. If you're not enjoying your work like Karen does, I'm bragging about Karen because she does a great job with our podcast and in promoting, and you can tell she's happy with it. Like I listen to her videos, and if I have any depression in my mind or heart at the time, struggling with anything, I could listen to that voice all day, and she makes you happy because you got to be happy, Karen. You got to be happy at what you do. Or you're not going to make money. Let's get down to brass tacks.
Absolutely. We're here. You go to work for a big chunk of your life. Why not enjoy it? And it is very disheartening when I see people that are struggling in a job that they actually don't like getting up for every day, and you think, what a waste. So you're here to help guide these people through so that they can live the life that they want to live and enjoy the work, enjoy the journey, right? It's a journey, so you may as well enjoy the journey. But what do you think that keeps people stuck in work that they do not enjoy? What is it?
Sam, I'm going to chime in, and I'll start. You chime in like you normally do. Fear is a huge obstacle. Goliath, I'm using a biblical term like David and Goliath, whether people believe in Christianity or not. It's one of the greatest stories, whether people think it's just historical or if it really happened. But it's David came up to a Goliath, but Goliath is just representative of all the struggles in our life, because we all struggle with different things. We all have quote unquote little demons that not necessarily are ruining our life, but we struggle. And I struggle with things now that I struggled with, 30 years ago, because I tell this to young people all the time, even parents that struggle, and I talk to them behind closed doors, even when I'm working as a school counselor and or a life coach. The principles are the same. The shadows of your upbringing are going to follow you for the rest of your life. What do I mean by that? You can't just take off who you are. And I'm taking off I'm dressing up as Clark Kent and putting on my Superman uniform. That's only in the movies. It only happens step by step. When we reinvent people, when coaches reinvent people, Sam and I have a great coach, Mitch Matthews. He's a phenomenal coach. It just didn't happen that he was a phenomenal coach. He was in pharmaceutical sales before he was a great coach, but he used those principles of knowing what he was doing in pharmaceutical sales, put him into coaching, and he's a very successful coach. And that's how I met Emily Lago, who is the forward to our book. So everything connected together, and you build a tribe, and it didn't happen overnight. The process with me is just starting to kick in. I'm excited. I'm excited for Sam. Sam motivates me tremendously every day. I'm excited. We have Karen on our team, and things are going to happen. But you got to get out there. No one's going to. Young people, especially young people, don't think things are going to, or even people that just lost their job. Let's say, wow, traumatic. It is traumatic. You got to pay bills. Bills don't stop coming in. You got to pay the bills. Karen, before you reinvented yourself, before you reinvented yourself, you tell I'm a global thinker because I'm skipping, but we're all getting the same. We're all coming to the same Emerald City. We're all going down that path. But before you were a podcaster, a professional, successful podcaster, what was your Goliath? Did you lose a job? Did you just say, I'm sick of my damn job? What do you do? The London pound of money is the same as the American in the sense of your bills are going to start coming in and you got to get paid.
Absolutely. For me, it was COVID. My whole life shattered around me because all of a sudden there was lockdown and nobody could get out. So me running live events was a definite no. But isn't it interesting? It's sometimes when you think in that moment of time, that's the worst thing that could happen. But look what came out of it. So in a weird way, I can look back and go, I'm not thankful for all the suffering around the globe. However, it made me look at things differently, and I chose a different path, and a path that I absolutely love. So in a weird way, it's almost there was something good that came out of all the misery.
Yeah. Well, and it's like that old proverb, every door that's closed opens a new window, right? If you choose to stare at the door, obviously you're not going to see anything. You're going to feel shut out. You're going to be distraught. But you got to look for the window that opens that opportunity, and you got to take advantage of it. Because when, like you said, Dr. Nesser, when there's fear, that often prevents people from wanting to look for that new opportunity that brings that apprehension.
So what was the difference, Sam? I'm sure that there might have been previous attempts to try and lift you out of this state, and you didn't open that door. What was it that made you open Dr. Nesser's door?
I think I was always in this. My apprehension came from the fear of, one, I think it was changing too much, because if I found something that worked, I didn't want to diverge from it. I was not necessarily willing, even if it wasn't working as well as it could, even if I wasn't necessarily happy, the fact that it was working was proof enough for me, and I didn't want to diverge from it. And it came from a bit of a lack of confidence where even though I was good at things, I never thought I'd be great at something. And that's what I felt like maybe in order to commit to a career or to commit to something, I needed to be great at something. But the reality is that you can't become great at something unless you try. Everybody has to start somewhere, and you don't just become great overnight. So you do have to put that foot forward and put in the effort to find it. And maybe, like I said, I went to college, but now I've diverged from that path of going to college, and I'm going into the police academy because I've always wanted to be a police officer. There's different pathways that I could have taken. When I was younger, initially, I applied to a college for Homeland Security and Criminal Justice. I've always wanted to be a police officer my whole life because that is a path that I am passionate about. Part of it is because there are police officers in my life that I have set a very good example for me, and that I wanted to grow up to be like. There's also things about the career that intrigued me. I like solving mysteries. I like the challenge. I like problem solving. And that is something that is a daily requirement when you are in law enforcement. This is a career path I've always wanted. And the specific goal to finding it, or the things that have motivated me or prevented me from following this path, have always varied as I've aged, but at the end of the day, it's all contributed to a lack of confidence that I'm actually capable of doing it. But eventually I had to come to the conclusion that, and it went on so long, it went to the point where I started thinking maybe it's too late. Maybe I'm too old to actually become a police officer. I don't want, if I'm in if I start now, yeah, I know. But, and maybe it's my quarter life crisis going on, but no, the reality is I'm still young and there's still plenty of time.
I wouldn't even use the word quarter life crisis
I know.
because I wouldn't think of that.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show we all create these stories. These are just stories that you created in your head that I might actually be too old for this now. And somebody else could create another story. It's just so fascinating that we are the ones that put the blocks in front of us.
Yeah, it's always very much a self-created obstacle. And I think part of it too also comes from, like within my generation, we're always told you have to go to college right after high school. It's the only way to survive. You have to do everything you can in high school to try and get whatever credits you can in order to then get transferred to a good college. And if you're not going to make enough money, you're not going to be able to live, or you're going to be miserable because you can't afford to have a good quality of life. But I think the reality is I had to learn that, one, people don't need everything in order to have a good quality of life. You just need what you enjoy. You need good relationships with people, and
set boundaries with those.
Yeah, you need to set boundaries. And most people, they spend so much time working that realistically all of the really fun, enjoyable things come only every once in a while. So why be miserable at work? And like you said, you have to enjoy the journey. And I've noticed that so many people in my generation are so focused on the end goal that they don't even worry about enjoying the journey. And what ends up happening is, they retire at 60 or something with a really good retirement, and they're able to enjoy life from that point on. But what about the last 40 years of their life? And I'm thinking that's such a huge portion of my life that why not try to enjoy all of it and do something that I really like?
I couldn't agree more. And so I absolutely applaud you, Sam. How exciting for this next transition for you. Now, I know you're both launching this book that you both, I know, Sam, you've written a chapter on it as well. So would you like to share with the audience a little bit more about this Bloom Where You Are?
Since Sam your audience, which I'm sure was glued to Sam's testimonial, we're going to stay on that same path with the last part of our episode. So chapter 3 is called A Brother from Another Mother. And Sam, would you like to share that chapter since you're the one that wrote chapter 3 of our book?
Yeah, I will say that chapter goes over my internal struggle with what I think was the blocks that I put on myself and how I found methods of overcoming them. And it goes over a lot of the things that I struggled with personally that I was pushing aside. The main thing is I was very depressed for a very long time, but also I have dyslexia, and that made certain things difficult, especially when it came academically. But I was so motivated or so determined to have to be successful academically that I put a lot of unnecessary stress on myself. And I never sought help because I was taught that if I sought help, either one, I'd be putting my burden on somebody else, or two, that I was showing too much weakness. And so I with dyslexia and my strengths being in, oddly enough, literature and math, the things that my dyslexia made it most difficult for me to actually work with, I learned ways to work around it. And even though I was very capable problem solving and comprehending complicated things, I had to find my own ways of coping with it without having the guidance of somebody else. And I think if I just put out that hand and asked for help or found somebody who could help me, it would have removed an enormous amount of that burden that I was carrying. And it would have relieved a lot of the unnecessary stress that I had. And especially now, there's so many different things that people, if you have dyslexia or any other type of condition that prevents you from learning or performing at your best, especially in college, you can just go to any college resource center and say, hey, I'm dyslexic. Taking a test is a lot of anxiety for me. It's something difficult, and I know I'm capable of solving these problems. But when I'm put under this pressure, I perform significantly worse than I know I'm capable of. And they'll tell you, okay, here, you can have extra time. You can have a room where you don't have a lot of other people to push this anxiety pressure on you. Some people, they get anxious when they're in a crowded room filled with other people doing the same task. They can bring you to an isolated space for you to take the test. They can provide you with more time. There's a lot of resources that they have to alleviate the unnecessary stress, so you can focus on just the problem solving or the stress that comes with the task at hand, because some stress is required in order for you to succeed, but the unnecessary stress is what makes things unpleasant for people.
Great point. We need stress to motivate us to go to the next level. Positive stress. The excess stress really takes us off focus, and also creates the anxiety, creates the depression, creates I can't do this. And you find yourself really not living in the now, live in the moment. Like right now, all three of us are living in the moment. We're enjoying the podcast. We're really having a great podcast episode, and hopefully several hundred people or 1,000 people benefit from this episode, because it is important. It's always, young people, you got to remember this. It's always inward to outward. It's never outward to inward. You got to take care of, and that's the first thing I always deal with people when they come in my office and I counsel them, because I've been counseling people for 30 years. You got to deal with the inward. Nothing's going to happen and change on the outward until the inward is taken care of.
100%. It all starts, and this is the issue. We're all, like Sam just said earlier, we're afraid to ask for outside help. And then actually, we know that everything we need is within us. And it's actually okay then to ask if we do need some help from the outside. We've got it all back to front, haven't we? We're beating ourselves up internally because we don't want to ask for outside help. And oh my goodness, we've got everything back to front. But I think the listeners could learn a lot just from this book. So what should the listeners do next to get hold of this Bloom Where You Are?
Sam?
Yeah, so we have on our website, you can actually go to our website, lifeisaclassroom.net, and we have a link there that will bring you to our early sign-up page on Amazon.com. If you look for Bloom Where You Are and Dr. Nesser or Dr. Damian Nesser or Samuel Geiger, if you look up the author name along with Bloom Where You Are, will pop right up. And
then finally, if the listeners, maybe there is someone out there that would love to have had the kind of support that Sam has had, so what should the listeners do next? What will be the next logical step to come and work with you, Damian?
Oh, that's a great question. Matter of fact, you'd not only work with me, but you'd also work with Sam and our coaching team. So we not only have Sam that you'd work with, but let's say you want to become an accountant. I would connect you through to free of charge extra that's in the package. We have coaching packages. Jeff Arcieri, he's our CPA, and he's helped two of our clients go into the accounting world. And so whatever, or a chef, I've got part of our coaching team is a chef, or Danisco Strategic out of Buffalo. He's our marketing guru. Or if somebody needs help building a website, Beth Thompson's on our team. So we got a lot of people on our team. We're very unique to what we do. And we'll book a free call, free 30 to 60-minute call, depending on what your need is, and we can get it done. We can help change your life and bring it to the next level.
Awesome. Thank you, both of you. Thank you for taking your time out today to give the listeners some fantastic little tidbits and advice for how they can follow their passion and live life on their terms. So thank you very much. And to the listeners, I'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer who would like to drive sales whilst having fun podcasting, head over to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free and find out how you can turn your podcast into a sales machine. We'll see you on the next episode.